Welcome to Soul Therapy. I'm Katie.
And I'm Kate, and this is a space where we take a deep breath, dive into healing, and laugh a little along the way.
Think of this as your cozy corner for exploring how to feel better, grow stronger, and live with more ease.
We'll chat about everything from practical tools to soulful insights, all designed to help you connect with yourself and navigate life's ups and downs.
We've put together this Soul Therapy session series to help you to come back into alignment.
By alignment, we mean living with expression of your true self and values, feeling centered and grounded in yourself, and with an inner peace, trusting in the flow of life and your role within it.
So listen along and join in with the exercises, and let us know how you get on. Ready?
Let's do this.
Welcome back to Soul Therapy. I'm Katie.
And I'm Kate, and today we're talking about health and fitness.
So, health and fitness has been a thing in my life where sometimes I've really enjoyed it and sometimes I've really not enjoyed it at all. It's definitely been a big thing in my life, and the more it hasn't been going well, the bigger it's felt.
Yeah, kind of like that idea of when something's not going right, we tend to focus more on it, and then it
Right.
becomes kind of a bigger challenge in our life.
Yeah, and also just the fact that when health and fitness isn't going well, it can kind of take over. I've ended up with time in life where I haven't really had the capacity to do what I've wanted to be able to do. So that's where my fitness hasn't been strong enough to actually support my life the way I want it. And then, of course, whenever our health is not working, that's when we learn that kind of universal truth that we hear and we think we know,
Right.
but that idea that if you don't have your health, then you really notice it and if you don't have your health, you don't have anything in a way.
Yeah, and like they say, if you don't take that time to rest your body, then your body will pick a day for you to do it, right?
Right, that's really true. Like, and did you notice that? So when I was working full time, like a full working 9 to 5 working week, what I noticed was a lot of the time my body would make it through the week and wait to be tired at the weekend, and then I'd be exhausted at the weekend.
Yes.
Or I'd make it through the entire, so when I was working in universities, I'd make it through the entire academic term, but then at the holiday time, then all of a sudden I would get sick.
Yes.
Or I'd been fending something off for weeks and weeks, and as soon as it came around to the holidays, I'd spend the first week sick.
Right. It's like your body is like trying to keep you moving forward so you can get all the tasks done. But as soon as we take that time just to sit and rest our body, that's when like the sickness can start if it's been something that's been pushed down because we've been too busy.
Yeah, exactly. So we've been kind of suppressing. I could almost feel that that's what I was doing. I was suppressing. I was just keeping going. I just need to keep on going until. But obviously, the until was until I have a day off or until I have a holiday. And of course, then you don't really want to spend your holiday sick. So it wasn't a great time to always be ill either.
Yeah, so it's kind of that idea of looking at how can we manage our health and fitness day to day and make it sustainable so we don't end up in this position where we crash for a week.
Yeah, so that we can actually maximize what we're getting out of our own health, our own fitness, our own life, rather than just kind of making it through. I noticed this quite a lot actually in the healthcare system. I noticed that what we're looking for really is to get people to as reasonable state of health so that they can carry on with their lives, rather than really talking about what true health is and what true fitness is, and how do we want to be? How do we want to live our lives? Are we maximizing our capacity as we want to?
Yeah, and I know like a buzzword now is like diets, right? And I always like feel icky when I hear that word diet.
Yeah.
Because I always ask myself like how sustainable is that actually, right? A diet is like people radically kind of change their life for a certain amount of time and they're like very much following this regime, but then once you finish that diet plan, it's like does this actually fit into the lifestyle that you have?
Yeah, and I think it's that idea of diet versus nutrition.
Mm.
Like, you
Mhm.
actually, I mean, a diet sounds like you're holding yourself back from certain things
Right.
and you're fostering others in your life.
Mhm.
Nutrition sounds like you're acting more in balance. And in a
Mhm.
way, they can effectively be the same thing.
Mhm.
But I just feel that for me, looking at the nutrition I'm giving myself is
Right.
a much more positive way
Mm.
to frame that for myself.
Right.
So it's not holding myself back,
Mhm.
it's leaning towards a different positive, who I
Mm.
want to be, the body I want to go through life in.
Right.
And if we think of it as the in a separate way, we've always thought of the idea of we're a body with a soul, right?
Mm.
But if we flip it around and we say we are a soul and we've
With
got a
body.
body,
Yes.
then this body shouldn't be something that we're against. This
Right.
body is a very intense, high
Mm.
tech piece of kit that we're
Mhm.
actually given in order to go through our lives and interact with each other and our environment, bring
Yes.
about our dreams through.
Right.
So, really, rather than working against it
Mm.
and holding things back from it, we're actually
Mm.
working with it and
Yeah.
giving it what it needs so that it can
Right.
supply us with the capacity we want.
I like that. So seeing our body as a vessel to be able to live
Mm.
out our dreams, to be able to
Yeah,
live out the healthiest life possible
yeah.
rather than working against our body, right?
Exactly, and this doesn't mean. So my grandmother used to say. Sometimes there's a lot of wisdom in those kind of old wives' tales.
Oh
She used to
yeah.
say, everything in moderation. So the
Mm.
idea that actually it's not about holding yourself back from something completely. It's not
Right.
about not having, for example, chocolate or
Mhm.
the occasional night out or glass of wine or
Mhm.
whatever, if
Mhm.
we want, but it's about the moderation of it. It's
Right.
about the fact that it forms a very small part of an
Mhm.
otherwise nutritious diet.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's the word
So
diet again. So that's what I'm
right.
saying about the different
Right.
contexts you can use it in. So if we
Exactly.
start to use it alongside words like nutrition, it
Yes.
doesn't just become something that you do for a few weeks
Yeah.
or that you change everything to focus around.
Mhm.
Instead, it becomes something that's your normal way forwards.
Right.
I guess I've changed that word within my mind because
Right.
when I was younger, when I was a teenager and in my 20s,
Mm.
I saw a diet as something you did for a week
Yeah.
or a month or
Yeah.
several months
Yeah.
intensively. But yeah, you can see now it just flows out in my speech. I've completely
Yes.
changed my connection with that word.
Yeah. And it's looking at how can, this idea of eating healthy food and having a balanced diet, how can this fit into our actual lifestyle that
Mm,
we want to live? So instead of adapting to certain foods and allowing that to dictate the lifestyle that we want, it's like, this
mm,
is the lifestyle. How can I eat balanced meals that are going to support me in
mm.
that? So it just makes it like more sustainable,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. And it's that kind of connection with what we
Mm.
want to be, so that we're
Mm.
bringing this idea of who we are and who we want to be into
Mm.
who we are being. And we're
Mm.
bringing that into the now
Right.
through what we're choosing to eat.
Right.
So, no, I can't lose any weight immediately. No, I can't
Mm.
become lot fitter immediately.
Mm.
However, if I step straight into being the me I want to be,
Mm.
being that person who has that fitness, being that person who maybe fits one size smaller jeans,
Mhm.
then I can actually become that person that I want
Mm.
to be.
Right.
I'm immediately stepping into it through the
Yes.
choices I'm making.
Mm.
And so in my mind, I'm already there. And in
Mm.
already being there, I'm already eating like I'm
Mm.
that person I want to be. And
Mm.
because I already eat like that person I want to be,
Yeah.
I actually lose that weight or
Right.
fit into that size smaller jeans.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, or increase my fitness that way. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's that instead of waiting until I become that and then I'll do this,
Right.
it's stepping into I am that. That is who I'm going to be going
That
forwards.
idea of becoming.
Yeah. And so
Yes.
in that way I become it.
Right. Yeah. And then looking into, going back to kind of like the mental health aspect
Mm,
of health in general is like body image. I
mm,
mean, this is a huge issue
mm-hmm,
with social media in today's world. And I think the more time that we spend on these sites and we're seeing certain influencers and models look a certain way, and then the impact that that can have on our own health and fitness and how we view
Yeah.
ourselves and our bodies, and even like the life that we want to live.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very difficult right now. I mean, obviously, we have the rise of AI influencers that are coming through.
Right.
And this is an expansion of the previous issue that we had with kind of photoshopping of images.
Oh, right.
So it's not even now that we've got people honing their bodies as their job and then putting them on camera and film, then maybe adapting that footage and those pictures with tools, a post-production. And then now we've actually got these AI influencers who are coming in who are completely fabricated. So this is really challenging. And the foundation of this that I've found works for me is the fact that I am bringing the best and fullest wholeness of who I am to life. And nobody else can compete with me in that. So there is no competition.
Right.
It removes that competitive element. And I used to really feel that pressure to be something I saw or be something I saw others being.
Right.
But I never would have pressurized anybody else to try to be me. That would have been ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I already saw that. So actually recognizing that I didn't pressurize anyone else to be me made me wonder why I was pressurizing myself to be someone else.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, this is a big one in the relationship house that we speak about in one of the first sessions, right? Is working on that idea of, again, self love and self acceptance of who you are rather than comparing yourself to other people and wanting to be that person, right? Because there's definitely that correlation between the self esteem and self acceptance.
I definitely think so, but there's also the who you are that sometimes gets buried underneath who you've been being.
Oh, yeah, that who you are versus...
So you've been this person,
yeah.
but underneath all of that, those masks, sits who you are, who you truly are. And there comes a time in life where you really want to let that shine, let your kind of, those weird and wild elements that are just you out a bit more. And or maybe if you've, like me, I'd been somebody who was always just that little bit overweight, and who really wasn't very sporty and couldn't really do the things she wanted to do physically. And I just decided, no, actually underneath this, I'd always been longing to be out and able to walk further and able to run more and able to move around with more ease, and engage in water sports was my thing. Actually, I'd wanted to be able to engage in water sports. And so I thought, why? Why am I allowing myself to exist within a body that I've cultivated to not carry me through as who I truly am underneath into the things I want to try and things I want to do? So there is that element where we can feel that we're not being true to ourselves. And then we can find a disconnect between the version of ourselves that we were being up until now and the version of ourselves or the actual true self that we really are.
Right. And you can literally feel that in your body, when you're being kind of that true self of who you are versus maybe who you're trying to be, because you feel like you need to be that person, right? And that can really impact our self-esteem too, is learning to step into yourself and who you are, right? And not maybe who you feel like you should be in the eyes of others.
Yeah, this is beautiful. And what about you? How did you feel that you were able to step into who you truly are?
I think for me, it was really a mix of things. I think it was working on that idea of like self-love, that idea of like self-acceptance, and valuing that as just being who I am can add so much value to the people around me and to the world around me, rather than feeling like I needed to be anyone else. And I know like I would do affirmations all the time. And I know like I hear like mixed views and opinions about like affirmations. But I would literally like write them on sticky notes and like put them around my computer. I would put them in my bathroom mirror. And I found that really helped with my level of self-confidence and self-esteem. Because literally we know the power of thoughts. We know how powerful our thoughts are, right? So when we are reading affirmations of I fully accept myself for who I am, that's going to evoke a certain feeling, right? But it's also not just saying it without any momentum. It's really learning to feel it, right? So you really want to be coming from a place where you genuinely feel like what you're saying is true, right? So sometimes to get in that place, it needs to be um, maybe thinking of thoughts that make you feel good, thinking of happy memories that make you feel good. So when you're looking at this affirmation and you're reading, like, I fully and completely accept myself, for example, for who I am, that you're coming from a place of authenticity and momentum, and you're not kind of just like feel like you're lying to yourself because you actually don't feel like that within, right? So equally with affirmations, when we say them, it's important to get to that good feeling place first, which can be done by thinking about happy memories, people you love, and then saying those affirmations. They have much more momentum behind them.
I think it's really
Right?
interesting. And I think also, people who are doubting affirmations, I think for me, they are really connected to what I said earlier about recognizing who you feel you truly are inside and who you want to step into being in
Yes.
life. And
Yeah.
then the affirmations are kind of a tool to help you step into that. So it's
Exactly.
not affirmations without action. It's
Exactly.
affirmations to draw action out of you, to
Exactly.
draw yourself into that
Yes.
moment where you are literally being that person that you want to become. And I think in that way, affirmations really work. I think connected with the actions, and anybody who
Yes.
has found they haven't worked for them thus far, I would just definitely say try and combine them with the action. So
Yes.
affirmation plus action, and then that becomes who you are being in your reality and in your life.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
for example, a person who gets out and walks every day. So, if that's what you want to be in your life, if you want to be someone who's fit and able to walk every day, then get out and walk every day. And if you then affirm to yourself, I'm someone who goes out and spends 20 minutes walking or running every day, then take action on it. Look
Yes.
at yourself. I'm a person who can do this, and step out the door and be it. Be in that life you wanted to create for yourself. Because
Right.
it's such a joy and such a pleasure to even something silly and easy, like walking down the beach, or like going and strolling down the high street and picking yourself up a coffee or something like that, can become a real joy
Yeah.
when you are being who you wanted to become.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's kind of that idea of affirmation, action, and then also feeling, right? The feeling plays a big role when it comes to cultivating that certain energy within us that can drive us too, right? And sometimes taking action first can also evoke a feeling. Like sometimes I hear a lot of people be like, well, I'll do it when I feel like doing it. But I know for me, a lot of the time, like when it comes to going for my runs, sometimes I'm like, I know when I start running, I'm going to feel better afterwards. So sometimes it is taking that action and knowing, reminding yourself how you feel afterwards can be like a positive reinforcement to motivate you to keep going.
Getting up
Right.
from the desk and getting outdoors can be really like this, because it might be a bit, the weather might not be great, we might not be feeling it, this kind of thing. It's easier to stay where we are. So yeah, and so that's, I mean, that's the law of physics, right? Anything in motion will stay in motion, but anything at rest will stay at rest. And so we actually, to get ourselves up and out, it does take some energy and it does take some drive, but reminding yourself of how much better you're going to feel, and reminding yourself that this is who you want to be, I think becomes a really important part of that then.
Yeah, that idea of kind of sometimes action can precede feeling, and that's okay as well, right?
And just knowing, like, also recognizing that on the way back, how much better you feel.
Yes.
And as you recognize that, as you luxuriate in that, as you kind of absorb the nutrients of that kind of effort that you've made, you reinforce the fact that next time you consider this, you will actually remember how good you felt afterwards.
Right.
So this stimulates that motivation to get up
Yes.
and go.
Yeah, that kind of positive feeling you associate it with going for that run along the water or going out for that walk,
You
right?
can also link it with some triggers. So for example, you could link it with getting out. If it's 20 minutes to your coffee shop, if you don't buy coffee and then you want one, you're going to have to go down the shop to get one.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Or you can link it to other things as well. For
Mm-hmm.
example, maybe when the postman comes, you recognize that, oh,
Mm-hmm.
I should be going out for my run. Or
Mm-hmm.
when certain things happen, maybe you've got a set time that you check your email at each day.
Mm.
And when you finish that, it's time to get up and get out for a 20-minute walk. Obviously, if you've got
Mm-hmm.
a dog, that's very helpful because they'll definitely
Yes.
remind you if you
Yeah.
forget.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they're always going to remind you to get out for a walk as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's really, really, just really important to bring joy to it as well, to
Mm-hmm.
be playful with it,
Mm-hmm.
and to find that joy in it. I know for me, I used to, I don't know how I suppose it was my competitive element,
Mm.
but I got into this thing that every time I did a run, or every time I did laps in the pool, or every time I went to the gym, I
Mm.
had to do more than I did the last time, or I had to do at least the
Mm.
same amount as I did the
Oh,
last time.
yeah.
And I was counting the laps, I was counting everything,
Right.
and it just sapped the fun right out.
Mm.
And all I found myself doing was then clock watching. I wasn't fully engaged. I wasn't bringing the fullness of my energy to the
Mm.
activity I was doing.
Yeah.
I was actually really, really engaged in clock watching and counting to make
Mm-hmm.
sure I hit everything on the nose, as I was supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
And the joy, I mean, obviously I'd achieved it, but the
Mm-hmm.
joy somehow seeped out.
Right.
And then I shook it up. One day I just thought to myself, I was swimming and I used to love swimming so much. And I realized it just wasn't fun anymore the way I was
Mm.
doing it. So
Mm-hmm.
I thought, well, what if I don't? What if I don't clock watch? And what if I don't
Right.
lap count?
Yeah.
What if I just do? And what if I don't do a certain number of strokes or certain strokes each day?
Mm-hmm.
What if I just do what I want to do?
Mm-hmm.
And it all became so much more fun. And when I realized I'd been there for a long time having fun, and I
Mm-hmm.
looked at the clock,
Mm-hmm.
I'd spent longer swimming.
Yeah.
I'd actually done more, and I'd done it with more joy and more
Mm-hmm.
energy. And I
Yeah.
felt my body start to respond to these things as that
Mm.
went on day after day.
Yeah.
Instead of doing set yoga routines,
Right.
I started to see how I feel about
Mm.
it. Now, I'm a yoga instructor, so
Mm.
you obviously be mindful of, if you actually have the skills to do this, you might need to go to a class or something.
Yeah.
But for me, I just started to let it flow,
Yeah.
and I was enjoying it again. I was
Yes.
having a good time. I tried new activities.
Mm-hmm.
I actually, it was a date. I suggested to somebody that we go for paddleball.
Oh, yeah.
And that was so much fun. That was a really fun
Mm-hmm.
way to spend time.
Mm-hmm.
So all of these things can come into your life in a lot more fun ways as well.
Yeah, and I think that's the point. It's like making it fun, right? And remembering like
Mm,
the goal is to maintain your health so you can
mm,
show up best for yourself, for the relationships around you.
mm,
Like obviously, this is a core component to like we spoke about the wheel of health, right? So the
mm,
more we can make this fun a part of our lifestyle, the
mm.
more we're likely to do it, and the more this is gonna show in all of our relationships, right? The
Yeah,
healthier we are, we're going to have more fun
yeah.
dates because we're going to be showing up as our best, happiest self, right? We're going to be able to show up better in our
Yeah.
relationships, right? So it's really looking at how can I make this a part of my lifestyle and actually make it fun. And again, back to the self esteem
Mm,
aspect of it, right? These are all things that can contribute to more positive self esteem. And when we are feeling better in our bodies about
mm.
ourselves, again, that gets hugely reflected out into the world as
Yeah.
well,
And it helps
right?
produce, so this action, this movement actually helps produce the kind of happy chemicals, if you like, within our
The
body
endorphins,
naturally.
the
Yes,
adrenaline, yes.
exactly. So these kind of chemicals are being produced naturally as we move.
Mhm.
And just alongside that, laughing and having fun. So
Mhm.
you're turning your exercise into more play and joyfulness, whatever you find
Mhm.
joy in. So we've all got joy in different things. You said that you really enjoy your running.
Yes.
For me, I really enjoy dancing, and
Okay,
so
yeah.
actually partner dancing or solo
Mm.
dancing, really good exercise, and so I
Yes.
really enjoy that. And
Mhm.
it became then something that was not just a physical fitness activity, but
Mhm.
something that brought me joy. something that brought me connection. Partner dancing brought me connection, and going to classes brought me connection. And that brought me new friends. And
Right.
so this is all becomes very expansive then,
Mm-hmm.
rather than this rigorous schedule set nose to the grindstone,
Mm-hmm.
kind of churning, rather than turning it into work,
Yeah.
turn it into play.
Yeah, and looking at like the impact that those two different mindsets and attitude has
Mm,
on emotions and
mm,
your emotional health, right? So the healthier you are emotionally, that's going to bleed into what you're eating every day in your
mm,
diet, right? Like how many times have you heard the term like emotional eating,
mm,
right? And how
yeah.
when emotionally we aren't doing well, we
Mm,
can generally have a diet and food that we're not eating very healthy, right? So again,
yeah.
it's like it's all kind of connected because it's like, hey, emotionally, if you aren't doing well or you're
Mm-hmm.
feeling like things are being forced, and then you go into the emotional eating,
Mm,
and then when we aren't eating well, we
mm,
also that impacts our mood, that impacts our energy
mm.
levels,
Yeah,
right?
definitely. I think that, I mean, I definitely in the past have done the emotional eating on a
Mm,
daily cycle.
mm,
And this was a big challenge for me. I was
mm,
really running away into food.
mm,
I think this can happen to people who have any kind of issue with safety and security in their past,
right.
um, whether they've noticed it or not. So sometimes
Mm,
it can be about just sitting with what's not been quite right in your life, or what you've been
mm-hmm.
worried about, so you can notice where
Yeah.
your safety and security issues are.
Yeah.
And they often express themselves through emotional eating,
Oh, very
overeating, that
true.
kind of thing, eating the wrong
Yeah.
thing. Certain
Mm-hmm.
dishes that we migrate to as comfort food, we even call it
Yes.
comfort food, right?
Yeah.
And that can still be incorporated into this moderation approach.
Mm-hmm.
So now, for example, based upon a regular monthly healthy period or
Mm-hmm.
moon cycle,
Mm-hmm.
um, I have
Mm-hmm.
approximately half a day
Mm-hmm.
where I allow myself a little bit of comfort eating.
Mm-hmm.
Half a day though, it's one, maybe two meals that
Mm-hmm.
I notice that kind of feeling coming up in me, and I make sure I've got that kind of cozy comfort food for
Mm-hmm.
that time. But because it is the minority of the time, because it is in
Mm.
moderation, because it
Right.
is only
Yeah.
one meal or half a day a month,
Mm-hmm.
it's actually, across the grand scheme of the
Yeah.
month, it doesn't make any negative impact on my health or my
Right.
well-being. And in fact, it has quite a compassionate, self-supporting approach to my
Mm-hmm.
mental health. So I feel
Yes.
really supported by myself
Right.
when every
Yeah.
time I want that. But that was very different when I was doing it every day.
Right, every day, day
Yeah,
after day, and then
yeah,
realizing like how we connect food to emotions, right?
yeah.
So like if we want to eat, pizza all the time, it could
Mm,
be because it's reminding us of a time in our life when maybe it was happy memories, right?
mm,
Remember birthday parties as a child, pizza parties, right?
mm,
So if emotionally you're not in a good place now in your
mm-hmm.
life and you project that out onto the food you eat, you're
Yeah,
gonna search for foods that remind you of good memories as a child, right? And a lot of the time it does tend to
right.
be junk food, right? Because like pizza parties as a child, and
Mm,
like, oh, maybe you're looking for that sense of connection now
mm,
because you're feeling lonely in your current life. So then you want to eat pizza, or maybe like you want to eat a lot of chocolate chip cookies because it reminds you of spending time with your grandmother when you were younger and she would
yeah.
cook chocolate chip cookies. So you're like connecting that food with a certain emotion that can bring you comfort,
Or
right?
reward food.
Mm.
So often as a child, we can be given food as a reward. So we can be,
Right.
I know this doesn't happen for everybody, but
Mm,
we can be given these things for birthdays, for Christmases, for celebrations.
mhm,
We often have cake, right?
mhm,
But we can also be taken out for a meal, or given a treat as a reward for doing well in school or something like that.
mhm,
And sometimes that can get fixed in our minds, that this kind of food is a reward. And we can get to the point where it's our reward for getting through the day.
right.
So definitely, I in the past had kind of, a bar of chocolate was a reward for getting through the day.
Mm,
Now, I don't, I'm now at a point in my life where I'm not at all self limiting.
mm,
And it's very natural, that everything in moderation thing comes very natural for me.
mhm,
So I don't hold myself back. But I've realized I don't want a bar of chocolate every
mhm.
day.
Yeah.
And so, and good job, because it wasn't good for me.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but I also know friends who have, said that they can have a big glass of red wine at the end of every
Mm.
day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, sometimes that can take a difficult turn when
Right.
one isn't really enough anymore, or maybe
Mm.
there's only just over one left in the bottle, so then it ends up being one and a half
Right.
glasses.
Yeah.
And then I've seen people go from it being one glass or half a glass every day through
Mm.
to it being a bottle a night.
Mm.
And
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden, we've got this creeping problem as
Right.
people eat or drink their emotions, and
Mm-hmm.
it becomes, whether it's food, whether it's alcohol, whatever it is, it becomes
Mm-hmm.
an addiction to
Mm-hmm.
fulfill. And we can't then get the same response from the
Right.
same amount. We have to
Right.
keep having more and more of it in
Mm-hmm.
order to get the result we were looking for.
Right. You're right. And that's really the root of a lot of addictions, isn't it? Is like a way to cope, a way to
Mm,
seek maybe that emotional safety,
mm,
a way to avoid certain feelings
mm,
through whatever, we're addicted to is giving us, right? It's very
mm,
much a form of avoidance of
mm.
not being able to sit with those feelings of discomfort.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Right.
addiction is often something we put in front of us. It's
Mhm.
actually, addiction's kind of like a dragon, but it's a
Mhm.
dragon we own. So
Mhm.
what we do is we create the addiction, and as
Mhm.
we've created it, maybe it was accidental or maybe it was
Mhm.
almost deliberate, but this addiction actually sits then between us
Mm.
and the issue that we don't want to face. So a
Right.
deeper
Yes.
issue, a
Yeah.
more substantial thing, maybe something that we see within our lives, maybe
Mhm.
something we don't, maybe
Mhm.
something in our current life, maybe something in our past.
Yes.
But we sit that dragon there between
Mm.
us and what we don't want to look at.
Yeah.
And that dragon, the bigger it gets, the more it blocks what it stands in
Mhm.
front of,
Right.
which is what we were looking for. So we've
Yes.
used that addiction to actually really achieve that
Mhm.
goal. We didn't want
Mhm.
to see what was behind it. And the bigger it grows, the less
Right.
we can. And we
Yeah.
can't possibly deal with what's behind the dragon
Mhm.
until we've dealt with the dragon itself.
Exactly. And the bigger that dragon grows, the more we tend to avoid. And in that
Mm,
avoidance, you can see that sprinkling out
mm,
into our other relationships,
mm.
family, dating life, the
Yeah.
relationship we have with ourself,
Yeah, it starts to have an
right?
impact on everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the choices we make
Mm-hmm.
start to be kind of, dragon led, if you like. They
Mm-hmm.
start to be, our addiction starts to
Right.
make our choices for us.
Right.
And then, is our addiction a tool that we're using not to face what was behind it, or
Mm.
are we a tool the addiction is now using to
Right.
keep itself going? So it's
Mm-hmm.
actually, we kind of enslave ourselves that way, and it
Mm-hmm.
can certainly feel like it. When we've got an addiction for anything, it can certainly feel like we are enslaved to it.
Mm-hmm. It controls our lives,
Challenging.
right? And
Yeah.
that can be an addiction to food, it can be an addiction to porn,
Mm,
sex,
mm,
drugs,
mm-hmm.
alcohol,
Yeah.
like anything that we kind of are using to numb ourselves out,
Mm.
right? And
Yeah, and we can actually even be addicted to things that would otherwise seem healthy. So
mm-hmm.
I know that in the past, I actually had a very unhealthy addiction to exercise. And
Mm,
so this was in the kind of counting and progressively doing more and more days.
right.
And so I ended up, I was in the gym for hours and hours
Ooh,
each
good
day.
one.
I was
Yeah.
going maybe twice or three sessions a day.
Mm-hmm.
And this became very unhealthy and it became an addiction. But
Mm-hmm.
it's very difficult to address because it
Mm.
externally we think of exercise
Exercise
as
is fine,
healthy.
right? And yeah,
So,
and
and I know that a few friends of mine actually have had issues where they do enjoy running, but
mm-hmm.
they've had issues with their knees, and so they've been invited by their doctor to maybe replace some of the running with a different form
Mm,
of exercise.
mhm,
But yet they're really addicted to the running. They really want to keep running. And so
mhm,
variability can actually be a key towards addressing any of our addictions. Like
mhm,
varying what we're doing can
mhm.
really, really help rather than
Yeah.
sticking to such a regimented routine,
Mhm.
which often we've created that routine to reinforce unhealthy actions.
Right. Yeah, and that's the interesting thing about addiction, like you said, like what can be healthy for someone when it becomes an
mm,
addiction actually is unhealthy. And being
mm,
able to measure, well, how do I know if this is becoming an addiction, or I
mm,
just, for example, love working out?
mm,
And it's really looking at like, how is this impacting other areas of your life?
mm,
Like everything is a spectrum, from mental health diagnosis, everything. So it's looking at, nothing is ever really a problem unless it
mhm,
starts having a negative impact on your day to day functioning and other areas of your life. So when you look at the wheel of health,
mm,
it's like, is my exercise every day, going to the gym 3 times a day, maybe
mm,
for 3 to 4 hours, is this impacting my ability to show up and connect with my friends? Is this impacting my ability to show up and connect with my family? Is this impacting my ability to be able to actually work?
absolutely. Or yeah,
Right.
or my other hobbies.
Or my
I
other
think
hobbies.
really
Yeah.
diversity is really key, and this is
Mhm.
something that's very clear on the wheel of health, is that
Mhm.
it's the diversity that confers strength to each thing. So
Yes.
each is stronger for the fact that the others are present. Now, this
Mhm.
diversity of
Mhm.
attention in our life to these
Mhm.
different key wedges of the
Mm.
wheel
Right.
um, becomes a really important thing. And actually, if we take away several of them, the whole thing starts to collapse under the tension.
Mhm.
So it's between them all that they have support, that they give support.
Yeah.
I think that's a
Exactly.
really important thing. So diversity, so mixing it up, and
Yes.
that's one of the things that you can do with things like exercise as well, and with your diet. We talked about
Mhm.
moderation. We talked about different things. It's not a bad thing to have some chocolate each week,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
maybe don't have it every day.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's not a bad thing necessarily to go running every
Mhm.
week, um, but maybe don't do it every day.
Mhm.
Maybe mix it
Mhm.
up. Maybe add in some other foodstuffs, some into your diet, some
Mhm.
other exercise into your week. Just you
Mhm.
know, don't focus on the one thing over and over and over to exhaustion,
Mm.
but make sure there's diversity there and in moderation with
Mm-hmm.
everything.
Yeah, and remembering in the wheel of health, it doesn't matter what area
Mm.
we spend a lot of time in, it's not going to be good. It's the same as in the wheel
Mm.
of like, you know, um, profession professional careers.
Mm.
If we spend too much time in that wheel, then
Mm.
everything else is not getting the attention it needs.
Mm.
It's the same with
Exactly.
exercise. If we spend too much time in the
Hmm.
exercise, everything else is not getting the attention it needs. So it's just
Exactly.
trying not to focus on one wheel too much,
Mm.
to the point where everything else gets out of
Yeah.
whack and thrown off. And that's when you start seeing day to day life start, maybe not flowing like you would, because you're kind of stuck in this one area rather than allowing things to flow.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely the strength is in the balance between things for
Mm-hmm.
sure. And
Yeah.
once you can see that impact coming out into other things, then we know that there's an issue somewhere. So being
Mm-hmm.
able to look for that. I think sometimes one of the things that people can do is that they don't give enough time for their own personal hobbies.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes it can be really great if you can fit into as one of your hobbies something active, something that gets you moving.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be running or gym though. It could be something a bit more diverse. I mean, rock climbing is really good for you, and it's
Mm-hmm.
more of a diverse thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Taking the kids swimming at the pool always uses a lot of energy.
Mm-hmm.
Even though you might not be swimming laps, it still
Mm-hmm.
uses a lot of energy. It's still a way of
Mm-hmm.
getting out and getting active. Flying a kite, those kinds of things that you can do
Mm-hmm.
that are very much more in the kind of hobby realm
Mm-hmm.
rather than clear exercise or clear
Right.
fitness. But
Yes.
actually, they're bringing a lot of those benefits as well
Mm-hmm.
through that hobby.
Yeah, and also that idea of taking time to do absolutely nothing,
Mm,
right? Like we were talking about, it's like if we're constantly so busy doing everything and then we stop, and then that's when the
mm,
sickness comes up, right? So
yeah,
it's taking time for breaks to
yeah,
actually just sit and do nothing and listen to our body,
yeah.
right? Like the importance of listening to your body. If you just stop and rest, your body is
Mm,
telling you everything you need to know, and like personally, my theory is like, if we can connect and be in tune with our body, this like,
mm,
oh, I have the flu and I'm out for 2 weeks sitting in bed,
mm,
I feel like your body was already giving you warning signs weeks
mm,
before you actually got to that point where you're now in bed for 2 weeks because
mm,
you're sick, right? It's like when you stop, what is my body telling me? Is it telling me maybe I need to take an extra hour and just sit and rest because it's trying to heal itself? But if we're not connected to our body and we don't hear those messages that it's
Yeah,
telling us to slow down, and we just ignore it and keep going and going, then it's that idea of, okay, well, your body's going to pick a day to rest and heal for you. And
for
it's
sure.
probably not going to be a convenient time, right? So it's learning to integrate those days of just sitting and resting your body and asking yourself, what is my body telling me? Like, literally, how am I feeling in my body right now? Am I feeling discomfort in my knee? Am I feeling, maybe my stomach's not feeling well? That's your body telling you it needs to rest and potentially heal, and listen to it before this issue becomes bigger and bigger,
Absolutely.
right?
And I think as a society, we're kind of
Mm,
glorifying exhaustion. We're
totally.
glorifying being busy.
Hustle culture.
Exactly,
Yes.
over health, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And this is similarly where we're kind of glorifying the extremes of
Mm-hmm.
fitness versus
Yes.
the actual genuine kind of capacity based
Mm-hmm.
um, result that we're going to feel when we get out with
Right.
ourselves,
Yes.
and we enjoy our lives, just being
Mm-hmm.
a fitter version of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I definitely think it's something to look at and notice. Are you glorifying in your words? Are you
Mm-hmm.
glorifying um, this kind of busy lifestyle?
Mm.
Because it's really powerful. As we speak, so we create. And so, if you're talking about being busy all the time, if you're talking about things going wrong, if you're talking about not having time for something, if you're talking about being unwell constantly, then you are actually also creating that vibration in your life. You're
Mm.
creating that as something, as a reality you're holding. Yeah? So, actually paying some attention to it, because the thing is that I don't know if I would talk about feeling fit and healthy if I wasn't creating a lifestyle in which I had the capacity to be fit and healthy.
Mm-hmm.
If I was eating junk food all the time,
Mm-hmm.
if I was constantly not getting enough sleep,
Mm-hmm.
if I wasn't getting out in the fresh air and the
Mm-hmm.
sunlight every day,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's the cloudy sunlight,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
then then I wouldn't feel like I was creating an environment I could be fit and healthy within.
Right.
So then this is where we lean back into the fact that an affirmation is
Mm.
not something I'd be saying despite not doing the work.
Of course.
An
Yeah.
affirmation is something I say to myself, I'm
Mm-hmm.
fit and healthy, you
Mm-hmm.
know? I
Mm-hmm.
say that to myself because I'm also taking action. I'm
Mm-hmm.
also doing the work to step
Mm-hmm.
into that fit and healthy person that I've spoken myself
Exactly.
as.
It's a tool, it's not the solution,
Mm,
so to speak,
mm,
right?
yeah.
It's part of the larger needing to actually take action, because
Mm,
like they say, nothing changes if nothing
mm,
changes, right? And
mm-hmm,
it sounds obvious, but it's so easy to kind of fall into that, not taking the steps to make things change.
mm,
Sometimes it's, I'm going to go and talk to a therapist, but I'm not going to actually do anything that was discussed,
mm,
right? So it's that realization of every day waking up and deciding to take active steps to work towards that
mm.
life you want to create,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. And
Mm-hmm.
finding your markers of
Mm-hmm.
things as well, because we spoke a bit earlier about self esteem. And
Mm-hmm.
self esteem is a really challenging thing because we hold it within. And so we
Mm-hmm.
can't quite see what others see of us, and we can't
Mm-hmm.
quite show them what we see of ourselves.
Yeah.
And that can be very challenging. In the recognition that sometimes maybe we're not getting a true image of ourselves.
Mm.
I personally have body dysmorphia, so sometimes when I look in the mirror, I don't see a realistic version of myself.
Mm.
I can actually hold up my trousers and think they must have shrunk in the wash because how do they fit on my body? They
Mm.
seem to be too small. So but recognizing that has really helped me because I
Mhm.
recognize that even if I look in the mirror and I can't see a true version of myself, when I
Mm.
hold up the trousers, I can see a true version of the trousers. And
Mm.
so then if they fit me, that's okay. These are the trousers I want to fit me,
Right.
and they do. So I've
Mhm.
found a way around that, finding your own perspectives and your own workarounds and for what you want. How do you want to express your health and fitness in your life? What do you
Mhm.
want to be able to do? and then choosing the lifestyle, creating the lifestyle that lets you get where you want to be, and
Mm-hmm.
jumping into it now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Mm,
that fits around the life that you want to create as well, right?
absolutely.
And remembering that it's all connected. So, for example, if you want to meet new friends,
Mm,
you can join a running club,
mm,
right? So it's looking
exactly.
at, these ideas of living a healthy life. They lead into all the other areas that we've talked about in sessions is,
Mm,
okay, I want to get healthier. I'm going to join a running club. Think of all the people you're going to meet in the running club. Maybe you
mm,
can meet someone you can go on a date with.
mm,
Maybe you can make a new friend,
mm,
right? So it's that recognition that this is a core piece of maintaining health and
mm.
wellness that, that can't be overlooked,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. It's really, and I think just bringing your body with you along for the journey of life,
Mm-hmm.
along for the beautiful, roller coaster ride we're
Mm-hmm.
on for life,
Yeah.
recognizing that sometimes there'll be ups and sometimes there'll be downs,
Mm-hmm.
but actually you're in it together. There's no fighting against your body. Your
Right.
body is not at war with you, okay?
Yes.
It's actually an expression that
Yeah.
you can use to articulate who you truly are. And if it doesn't feel in line right now,
Mm-hmm.
then work together with your body and
Mm-hmm.
maybe with somebody else, and then want somebody else on board as well,
Mm-hmm.
to just get some support while you bring them into line, you bring that kind of thing
Mm-hmm.
into harmony.
Yes, it's
And
very true.
yeah.
And sometimes health, I think it's one of those things that we take for granted until we can't do what we want to do.
Mm.
Like sometimes I find I don't even appreciate my health enough until I'm sick.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really true.
Yeah, for example, me going out and being able to run.
Absolutely. Yeah, we can think of it as a chore that we need to do or something we have to get done in our day until we don't have the opportunity for it. And then all of a sudden, we
We miss
recognize
it.
how we miss it. Yeah,
We miss it and we're
exactly.
grateful
Yeah,
for
the
it.
joy and the capacity in doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely caught myself actually in the past, though.
Mm-hmm.
I actually had a very nasty car accident, and I was quite badly injured. And
Mm-hmm.
as I healed, the one thing I wanted more than anything was to be able to get up from the chair myself, walk into
Mm-hmm.
the kitchen and make a cup of tea, and
Right.
carry it back to the chair and sit down and drink it.
Mm.
And so it's very simple things that
Mhm.
actually our physical capacity and our fitness give us the ability to do.
Mhm.
And we really miss those when we don't have them.
Right.
Now I'll never not value that when I make a cup of tea.
Right. Yeah.
So, but it would be beautiful if everybody can have that recognition or try to
Mm.
gain that recognition
Mhm.
without having to go down that very painful journey.
Right.
Um, so
Right.
yeah.
So that kind of that idea of gratitude and being grateful for
Mm.
our health and for our
Yeah.
body and what it's able to do for us.
Yeah, finding that gratitude, and just even if it's kind of, oh, I have to walk to the shops now,
Mhm.
I get to walk to the shops now.
Mhm.
Reframing the way in which we're talking about it, because at least we're able to, and so
Mhm.
it's working on our fitness, even if it's just a 5-minute walk to the shops.
Absolutely. Yeah. And in relation to kind of, that gratitude for our body and helping to
Mm,
build self esteem,
mm,
one exercise I always like to do and that I recommend to clients is listing 5 things that you actually like about yourself, right?
mm,
And this could be anything from your personality to physical features,
mm,
whatever you feel and appreciate about your body. So it could be like, I'm grateful for my ability to form connections and make new
mm,
friends. I'm grateful that I'm able to go out for runs every day.
mm,
Um, Something you love about your body. I love my hair, right?
mm.
So if we can learn to appreciate 5 things about ourselves every day, that can really help contribute to a healthy attitude, a healthy mind, and again, a healthy body because it is all connected.
Absolutely. Well, I
Mm-hmm.
quite like my feet,
Mm.
and I am grateful every time I walk in and make my own cup of tea and carry it back to the chair.
Mm.
So, yeah, that's a beautiful thing.
Mm.
Remembering those things that we're grateful for and reminding ourselves of them, seeing the
Yes.
positive.
Yes.
Mm.
And speaking of health, we encourage all of you to get out and go for a 20-minute walk today to continue to work on your health journey.
Yeah, and this is really important to get outside. I know the
Mm-hmm.
weather's not always that great, but we're not actually getting the same kind of health benefits overall from doing all our exercise inside. So we do need 15 to 20 minutes out in the world each day. So taking a little bit of exercise outside is really helpful. Thank you so much for joining us today on this session of soul therapy.
And we look forward to seeing you in the next session.
Thanks for joining us. We'd love to connect with you live in our group sessions.
Join our online membership to spend weekly group sessions with us, where we will be talking about topics such as depression, anxiety, burnout, relationships, family problems, and addictions, as we work with you to develop your health and well-being.
In addition, this includes access to a private Telegram group, weekly actionable exercises with guaranteed general feedback from us. The 12-week membership comes with an exclusive offer of reduced price one-to-one sessions with us for the duration of the 12-week membership.
A lot can change in 12 weeks. Come and join us and jump into the life you choose.
Remember that to get the most out of these soul therapy sessions, whether the free podcast series or the membership, we advise full participation in all the suggested exercises.
Throw yourself into this fully and become the you that you have always dreamed of being.